I know it's here somewhere.
That suit.
Gerald, there's no one else. There's only you. Don't. I'm working all day hard in the office when you're just sitting around, lolloping in bed, eating chocolates, watching TV, and entertaining other men.
Lolloping?
Lolloping.
Gerald, that suit's got to go.
You chose it.
It's another television affair. I'm Johnny and I'm a grub from the end of the stairs cupboard, and when I'm not grubbing around, I'm watching old TV and thinking about things to talk about with it. This week is a quiz edition of Reject Channels. Since from around 2001, phone-in competitions or participation television was becoming big in Europe, most specifically in Germany. Now, if we were going to put our criticism headphones on, you'd have heard that last bit like this. Since 2001, phone-in competitions have been ripping people off with the hope of winning money and just not, specifically in Germany. We can take those off now, but it's not something I totally believe. There is an element of it though, and I think there are quite a lot of people that see it in that way. There was a channel in Germany called TM3 which had rebranded to 9 Live in 2001. That had phone-in competitions and it was called Participation Television. I like the sound of that because it sounds a bit more professional. Now the premise was the same. People would call up a premium rate number and they'd go on telly and try and win money. Kids sometimes would regularly call in, by the way, and get told off because kids aren't allowed to play. One of the most outlandish presenters on the channel hosting various quizzes was Max Stradin. I bet you'd never switch into ITV Play and see Greg Scott do something like this.
Uhu! Nein! Zugeschlagen. Lösung bitte. Hirsch. Da muss ich ausflippen! Da muss ich ausflippen! Es geht nicht anders! Zugeschlagen. Lösung bitte.
9 Live would survive until 2011 and all of its traumatised viewers would have to find somewhere else to play quizzes. In the last episode we mentioned how Quizmania had versions of its show around the world. Apparently it came about when Debbie King and producers Chuck Thomas and Simone Thorogood pitched a programme based on a 9 Live show to Nation 217. Fremantle liked the idea and backed them to create Quizmania. In this country, phone-in quizzes died in around 2007 when there was an investigation into Quiz TV and channels were becoming concerned about their reputation. So, the first question for today is, what's this channel? Time is up and there are a couple of incorrect answers on the board. The first one is Al Jolson. He was an entertainer from a long time ago, sung a song called Mammy. And then also Microwave Bees, the bees you find in a microwave. Slut, somebody who shags about a bit. And then finally the real answer, which is Big Game TV. Big Game TV was on Sky Channel 849 starting in May 2005. I couldn't find any actual footage of that channel, however, they did produce the Daily Quiz which aired on ITV Play. In May 2006 they were raided. Fraud officers investigated them after a BBC investigation that alleged that they had told call handlers to ignore calls. ITV dropped all involvement from Big Game TV and the investigation was also eventually dropped by the police. The channel would close in 2007 after a wider scandal involving competitions. Right, here we go again. What is our next channel? That is G-3, A add 4, M-12 and E add 7. What do you think that could be? Okay, let's start at G, and G-1 is F. Take away another one, that's E, and another is D. So we've got the letter D. A, add 4 is B, C, D, E. So we've got E. M-12, that's L, K, J, I, H, F, E, D, C, B, A. So we've got A. And then finally we have E, add 7, which is F, G, H, I, J, K, L, which gives us Big Deal. The Big Deal launched in July 2009, which is odd because around that time, most of the quiz channels were closing or had closed, other than the Tatters ones that I'll mention a little bit later. Now, the only footage I could find is of Alex Kramer. From what I can see, she's been on most of the main quiz channels that's been on television, as well as QVC. The Big Deal was on Freeview and it originally shared a channel with Russia Today and Create and Craft, but it didn't remain as a quiz channel. In November, it changed to Teleshopping, and in 2010, it shared a channel with Dave Jarvu. By the end of 2011, they'd added psychic readings to their channel, and the channel changed formats and owners a couple of times, one of those being Movie Mix, and by 2016, it was owned by Sony. It's now Great Movies. Back to the quiz again, and what is the next channel? Here's a word link. We have got Country, United, One, and King. What word is related to all of those? The answer is nation. Nation 277 came to telly in 2003 on Sky Channel 277, but it would later move to 217 and it changed its name to Burt Madergo. No, it didn't. It changed it to Nation 217. It would rename to Quiznation, though, a little later. It would then stay on air until May 2007 when the phone scandal, blah, blah, blah. Regular presenters included Caroline Flack, Debbie King, Olivia Lee, Milo McCabe and Tim Dixon.
They're so naughty, these guys, playing around with letters like that. Here's an anagram for you. I need you to tell me what this says. Shall I? Okay, they deal with figures. Ant, co.
Which channel, instead of having a ringing sound like that, had a dog barking instead, and his name was Jack? If you completely forgot about it, it was the Great Big British Quiz.
You're live on 5. Who's there?
It's Andy from London.
Andy, what would you do with £50,000, sir?
Holiday, I think.
Holiday. Andy, the best of luck to you. What's your answer?
1847.
Andy.
The Great British Quiz was on Sky Channel 840 and NTL Channel 770, and the channel produced shows for Channel 5 and Sci-Fi Channel. It didn't really look like the other quiz channels, and to have a slightly different take on the look was a nice change. What I mean by that was their graphics were more animated than the other channels. Anyway, it would all close in May 2007, around the same time as the rest. In our next quiz today, what is the missing word? The answer was Quiz Call.
Saturday night. My name is Liz Fuller. It's lovely to have your company. Now, tonight's
Quiz Call was on Freeview, NTL and Sky Digital, launching in April 2006. It had a lot of airtime on Channel 5 as well, and the prizes were also bigger than the other quiz channels. They once had a car up as a prize, which many of the channels didn't do, and actually I think that kind of thing would have been a nice twist to happen regularly. Instead of having £75, you could win a microwave or an air fryer or a new TV or a year-long subscription to Sky. It would have also made sense considering the audience, and I touched on this in episode 7, but I want to go on a bit of a detour. And the reason why is because I've been having a think. Now, one thing that clearly hadn't been thought about was these slots, or maybe they were thought about and there was some dark logic to it. But people up this late at night are usually up for a reason. That might have included parents of newborn kids who are up at stupid o'clock in the morning because their kid hasn't got into a routine yet and they're hungry. It might have also been because the pub had just closed and they had to go home. This process means that you'd usually have regulars, and some of the channels that I've mentioned before would have regulars that got in touch. But I want to use local BBC as an example here because you don't have to be old to be lonely. And as you get older, you can get a bit lonely, and the media is one of the places that you turn to other than family and friends. But when they're not available, you go to there. Some of these people might be alone, depressed, or can't sleep. Maybe they don't get out much due to restricted mobility or commitments, or have some sort of vulnerability like a disability that means that they can't get out as much. I've known producers that work at BBC that when a regular stops being a regular, they worry about it. Where have they gone? They might be of an age or have a vulnerability, which means that they're here today, but they might not be tomorrow. So I sort of get annoyed retrospectively about how much of an audience connection the channels could have had, considering that without the people that are calling up to answer the questions, there wouldn't be a show. So yeah, like I said in the last episode, it would make sense for the person who got on air to have more of a conversation with the person presenting. I saw this happen more regularly on Quiz Call. But going back to the audience, these channels are usually on when people get back from the pub, flop in front of the sofa. There might also be a financial reason why they're watching. They can't go out to the pub, so they just watch the quiz in and maybe have a drink. I think after a few drinks and some encouragement from friends, I probably would have got involved. The thing is, in the evening, people are more open to influence. Some of those people might be dependent on drugs, alcohol, gambling, or maybe looking for the next hit of whatever it is they're looking for. Plus, playing these games and getting involved in them is quite exciting. It's also the presenter's job to jack up the hype. All those factors might be a reason for someone to get involved and keep calling and keep calling and keep calling and not stopping until they've got a £100 phone bill. Now, a lot of the stations did have messages on their thing where they'd say, give yourself a limit or don't call up too much, but still that didn't stop some people from getting a massive phone bill. So really, as a medium, it kind of looked like there was too many bad factors for this to be viable. Anyway, back to Quiz Call, and on its first birthday, it's celebrated by having a 41-hour marathon with a jackpot of £100,000. They were really all out, and some of the shows were actually quite entertaining.
Hi, it's Ruth.
Hello, Ruth, honey. Have you got a winning answer for me?
Okay. Have you had a turkey?
I beg your pardon. Let's... Forward question, Ruth. Let's find out if I've had a turkey. Ruth, what do you like? Have we had a turkey?
Once she was done at Quizmania, Debbie King joined Quiz Call. This is Chris Hopkins, and I remember thinking he was pretty good and well suited to it.
Quizcall.co.uk. There you can see our terms and conditions and our fair entry policy. Make sure you're over 18 and Phil pays permission. And if you want our T's and C's in writing, write to the address at the bottom of the screen. I'm sorry that I'm laughing, guys. I was just picking up this and I was going to have a drink of water. But while I was telling you what I was just saying, I was thinking, if I was a fish, what would I sound like if I was speaking? That's the only reason I said that. The only reason I said that is because I was thinking of water. Let's try it. Hold on. What would I sound like if I was a fish and I was talking? What's going through my head? Hello?
Hello, Chris.
Hello.
I would give this guy a slot on the paint drying network, and if you're new to the channel and don't know what that means, it's a compliment. It means that that person is entertaining enough to make paint drying fun. Quiz Call's parent company, Ostrich Media's feathers were rustled with criticism and controversy in 2006 to 2007 when the phone scandal blah 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 blah. They quickly admitted cutting corners and holding viewers knowing that they wouldn't be aired and had no chance of winning. Then they buried their heads in the sand because ostrich. They would be accused of removing winners from the pecking order by blocking them after winning a few times using their free online entry. Their Sky channel would cease broadcasting in January 2007, and it would stay on Channel 5 until it was removed in March 2007 because of investigations into again. It returned to Channel 5 a little bit later in the month, and then it stayed on Channel 5 and its sister channels until September 2009. Before I go on to the next and final thing, I just want to mention about over on FTN, because they couldn't make their mind up on what they wanted to do. So they filmed their 12 to 3 a.m. slot with various different shows. They took the Great Big British Swiz, then they also took on The Big Game and then Quiz Call at various points, but they also had their own slot called Quiz Night Live. It was on air from November 2005 to November 2006, and then in November, Quiz Call would take over, but they would only stay on air until their channel closed in January 2007. As you might have noticed in these clips, every channel had its own phone. They were all the same kind of phone, they were just different colours. Sometimes the shot of the phone would stay on for quite a while. Now, I don't know if the presenters were told to show the phone, or whether the producers thought the phone was magic and that people would want to grab their phone if they saw the quiz phone on the telly. But it was a bit like they were trying to send some sort of message with the phone. Pick up the phone, worship its quizzical powers, even though we can barely contact you through it because it's a prop. Woo! Phone quizzes in the UK like this are no longer on our screens, and I think it says a lot that our European friends have now outlawed quizzes like this. I think for something like this to work and exist these days, it would need to be transparent and organic. For instance, program makers in the industry over the last 30 to 35 years have been pretty sneaky in trying to think of ways to make it more entertaining, also pushing the boundaries that can be seen as acceptable, and that's whether it's in the eyes of the regulator, the audience, or the law. I remember listening to some old radio competitions in the year 2000, and I remember thinking that it was a bit odd the way that the quizzes worked, because the way it used to work, you just ring up the radio station, enter a competition, and if you got the answer correct, then you won. But I remember this time that my mum won tickets to see the Magic Roundabout at the Wyvern Theatre in the early 90s, and I can't actually seem to find any record of that being at the Wyvern Theatre, but here is a picture for somewhere else, and I swear I didn't make it up. Definitely went to the Wyvern. Anyway, my mum obtained those tickets by calling up Brunel Classic Gold, and she spoke to Sandy Martin, and she answered a bunch of questions and got them all correct. Now, this new type of quiz, it would be on every day, but nobody would win until Friday. And then somebody won, and then it was all a big party. Then they'd start again, and then sometimes they'd even have like a rollover, so nobody would win until next Friday. That's when I started getting a bit sus about it, because I was like, isn't it a coincidence that they have a winner every Friday, but not any time during the week, even though they play the quiz? Also, the questions, if you want to call them questions, were really dumb as well. It was like some dude sneezing, and then it's like, which celebrity is this? And it turned out to be Sean Connery. Another one, tell us the name and colour of the car this door closing sound comes from. Red Rover, obviously. So yeah, if they were going to make it work today, they'd have to make it really transparent, clear and simple, and also not pull any like dodgy strings anywhere, just be straightforward with it. That's about it for today. Thank you for doing a watch. So on the next episode, we're going to be looking at some shopping channels and also maybe a couple of other ones as well. If you like what you're watching and you want to help support the channel, all you have to do is check out the community post that I've posted up after this video. There's a couple of ways you can do it though. You can join as a member. We start at Champion for £1, and that'll include some members only videos. Also, if you're interested in joining the Discord, which is opening on Sunday, you need to be a team member to do that, but have a look at the community post to see which one's best for you. If that's not your thing and you're happy to support by liking, sharing and subscribing, that's brilliant. Thank you so much if you've already done that. If you haven't, then do it. By the time the video comes out, we should have got about 1,250 subscribers, so thank you so much. It's amazing. It's very much appreciated. I didn't even think I'd get 10. The executive producer is Computer Tom. And thanks to the first team member via Coffee, Sam Radmall. I've been Johnny Robinson, and I'll still be Johnny Robinson after this video is finished. Thank you, bye.